السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح الله أكبر الله أكبر
الله أكبر الله أكبر.
لا إله إلا الله
إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستهديه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا. من يهد الله فهو المهتد ومن يضلل فلن تجد له وليا مرشدا. وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأن محمدا عبده ورسوله وصفيه من خلقه وخليله. بلغ الرسالة وأدى الأمانة ونصح الأمة وكشف الله به الغمة وجاهد في سبيل الله حق جهاده حتى أتاه اليقين. وأصلي وأسلم عليه وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين وعلى تابعيهم ومن تبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين. عباد الله، أوصيكم ونفسي بتقوى الله العظيم وطاعته وأحذركم من معصيته ومخالفة أمره ونهيه. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله ولتنظر نفس ما قدمت لغد واتقوا الله إن الله خبير بما تعملون. Praise be to Allah, we praise Him, we seek His guidance and forgiveness. Whomever Allah guides, none can misguide, and whomever is left without guidance, none can guide besides Allah. We bear witness that there is no one worth worshiping but Allah, and we bear witness that Muhammad is His last prophet and messenger. Prayers and peace of Allah be upon him, upon his companions, upon his followers and their followers till the day of judgment. Ameen. Servants of Allah have the taqwa of Allah. That is, have the balance between the love of Allah, the respect of Allah, and the fear of the punishment of the hereafter. Have the taqwa of Allah, that is, be where Allah wants you to be, and avoid doing or saying whatever Allah is not pleased with. Have the taqwa of Allah and do not die except on the state of Islam, the state of submission to the will and the orders of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. أما بعد. يقول المولى عز وجل في كتابه الكريم: لقد كان لكم في رسول الله أسوة حسنة لمن كان يرجو الله واليوم الآخر. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put many principles in the Quran. Those principles, when we pass by them, we look at them as main guidelines and points of education for anyone who reads the Quran. One of these principles is still talking about Prophet Muhammad ﷺ and how we should look at him. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Surah Al-Ahzab, indeed, you have a great example in the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam for those who hope to please Allah and to be successful in the hereafter. What Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling each one of us to understand and to remember all the time, that Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is a role model, is the best role model for you if what you want to do is to be successful in the hereafter, if you want to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So Prophet Muhammad is not only an educator, is not only someone who teaches the Quran, is not only someone to tell us about the Day of Judgment and the Prophets and Allah, is not only a mubashiran wa nadira, but also he is a role model. He is an embodiment of the Quran. His acts, his talks, his manners, his ethics are resemblance of the Quran. As he was described, كَانَ قُرْآنًا يَمْشِي عَلَى الْأَرْضِ. He used to, as if it's Quran walking on earth. And that's the nature of the human being, that we always like to have role models. If I want to become a rich person, I will go to the store, to the bookstore, and I'll buy a book about Warren Buffett, Bill Gates, those people who made a lot of fortune, because I want to be like them. If I want to be a famous person, I will study the celebrities and those who became famous. If I want to be a successful physician, then I'll go meet my successful uncle who was a physician, for example. Or I'll talk to my father. Or I'll talk to my relative who did the same thing that I wanted to do. We like to have role models. We learn from these role models. That is the nature of the human being. We look at people that we want to be like them, and we go and ask them and learn from them, how did they get where they got? So if what you want is to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and to be successful on the Day of Judgment, then your role model is Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, as a role model, as an example for us, he gave us a lot of options to learn from. Different than other prophets, by the way. If you want to learn how to become a good father or a good husband, you cannot learn that from Prophet Isa alayhi salam, because he never got married, he never had children. But Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam did. If you want to learn how to live and go through the tough times of your life, you cannot learn that from Prophet Sulaiman, who was a very wealthy person throughout all his life. But Prophet Muhammad ﷺ was a poor person many times in his life. If you want to learn how to be any part of your life, you'll find most of it existed in the life of the Prophet ﷺ. He was an orphan and he was the leader of a powerful state. He was an oppressed and he was victorious. He was poor and he was rich. He punished and he forgave. The way he dealt with everyone in the society, the way he dealt with the poor and the rich, the way he dealt with the women and the men, the way he dealt with the elderly and the young. Prophet Muhammad ﷺ is a perfect example for us to learn many things in life. And as a leader of the society, he gave us a great example how to be leaders. Anyone who wants to become a leader, the best example for them is Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The way he led these people who came out of the desert, primitive lifestyle, to become the leaders of the world. The people who wrote about Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, these are non-Muslim authors and scholars and scientists. One of them put them as number one, as the most influential person in the history of humanity. Why? Because he was a great leader. One of them said, if Muhammad lives in the 20th century, that was back in the 20th century, he would be able to solve all the problems of the world while sipping a cup of coffee. One of them said, Muhammad was a great example of how you put together the power of Caesar and the spirituality of the Pope, together without the political corruption and the religious manipulation of powers. Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, by the witness of many people who do not even believe he's a prophet, they believe he was an amazing leader for us to learn from him. Anyone who wants to work in the leadership, whether the Muslim community leadership or your organizational leadership, your professional leadership, you want to run for a Congress, you want to run for a city mayor, you want to run for council, you want to run for the PTO of your kids' school, you can learn from Prophet Muhammad ﷺ how to lead. One of the books that I myself read is how Prophet Muhammad ﷺ dealt with the weak of the society. Not only the weak physically, but the weak mentally and educationally. And that taught me personally how to deal with people when I'm in my position of leadership. But leaders sometimes have to take tough decisions and difficult situations. And Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, as a leader, he had to do that. 9 times in his lifetime, in his 23 years of being a prophet, Prophet Muhammad ﷺ made 9 difficult decisions of going into war. Many people think or imagine that the life of Prophet Muhammad ﷺ was full of wars and ghazawat and all that. 9 days out of the 23 years only, there was a battle fair. And 9 times Prophet Muhammad ﷺ had to make that decision. Besides the drama that we see on TV about these things, besides the exaggerations that people wrote in books, there are very important lessons that we learn about leadership when it comes to these incidents. What I'd like today to talk about one of these incidents and a couple of the lessons that we learn from that incident. That incident, as all of you know, it's called Uhud. Uhud is one of the most famous incidents that happened in the life of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, where he had to make a tough decision and difficult situation, and how we all know how the great victory of the Muslims was flipped to become a tragedy, was flipped to become a painful part of the history of the Muslims. 70 companions were killed in that incident. Hamza ibn Abdul Muttalib, Mus'ab ibn Umayr, Muawiyah ibn al-Yazan. These are great companions. 70 of them were killed in this sad day because of a mistake of you. This incident happened in the life of the Prophet ﷺ, and all of us learned it throughout our lives. And all of you know the details of that incident. I'm not going to be talking about the details of the events. I want to talk about lessons that we learn. So 2 lessons that I would like to reach out with you, share with you today, inshallah, that will benefit us here in America, will benefit us running our masajid, will benefit us improving the status of the Muslim community in America by learning those 2 principles. The first principle, it's called the principle of shura. Shura is an Arabic word. If you want to translate it or explain it, it is the ultimate form of democracy. It is the best and most perfect way of running and ruling with democracy. Nowadays, people claim they live in a democracy, but it might not be actually democracy. It might be influenced by media and money and lobbyists and all that. Shura is different. Shura means consultations. Shura means that you sit down with people and argue and debate discussions, and the majority decide on one thing, as long the discussion is within certain boundaries and certain limits and within guidelines. After the Battle of Badr, the people of Quraysh were so upset of the defeat, so they said, we will take revenge. They planned and they arranged for a huge army, and they started their war propaganda and the media, and everyone's talking about in Arabia that Quraysh finally decided to take out this group of Muhammad and his companions once and for all. Extraction completely and destruction completely. And this news reached Medina. So Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam immediately sat down with the companions. Right away, a group of companions, their job was to protect the masjid. A group was to protect the entries of Medina. A group was just to walk around Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam because there was a news that assassination was planned about Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And then all the scouts went out to see what's going on and where is the army and how far they are. And when they are approaching Medina, immediately Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam called for a general body meeting, a consultation meeting, a brainstorming session. He gathered all the companions in the masjid and he said, what do you think? This army is approaching us. My opinion, the Prophet ﷺ said, my opinion is that we wait for them inside Medina. We wait until they come in, the men will fight on the streets, and the women will fight from the top of the roofs of the houses. This is my opinion, not Allah's order. That's what He said to everyone. The seniors and the elderly of the community, they said, we agree with that opinion and we are for it, O Prophet of Allah subhanahu. The other group, which is the majority, were younger, more enthusiastic. They're already happy about the winning of the Battle of Badr. They said, no, we're not going to wait for them to come here and slaughter us. We're going to go out there and defeat them the same way we defeated them in Badr. The discussion went back and forth. The majority decided that we're going to go out. This is shura. Did the Prophet ﷺ say, no, I'm the only leader here? Did he say, you're fired and you're fired, I'm doing this? No. The Prophet ﷺ said, we'll go with the vote of the majority. He was the first person to get ready and stand up in front of everyone. And that is the principle of shura. One of the important things about the principles of shura. Please, brothers, move forward a little. That's not the principle. That when a discussion goes on and when people are arguing about a decision and finally they decide to make that decision, everyone should support it. When there is a board in a masjid who have an argument about something and finally as a board they decided, then everyone should support that decision. When there is a Congress that votes on something and everyone decides on it, then everyone should support it. Not people trying to undermine the efforts and trying to make sure that the decision is not going through. That's not the shura. When Prophet Muhammad ﷺ listened to the majority vote and they went out, and we all know the sad ending of the story. Have you ever heard Prophet Muhammad ﷺ stood up in front of everyone and he said, see, I told you so? No. Have you ever stood up and said, my opinion was to stay because I listened to you, look what happened? Never. He defended the decision even though it was against his opinion. And he never blamed those who voted against it. Nowadays, I sit on many boards. You'll find one person in the board, see, I told you my vote was against what you're doing. No, that's not how it works. Or someone would say, for the record, write down that I'm against this. No, what are you trying to do? That's a very selfish way of dealing in a teamwork. Teamwork that has shura and that has democracy, that we all support the decision after it's voted for, and then we don't go back and say, look, my decision was there or my opinion was there. And that's an important principle that we all should learn. As a family, as a masjid, as an organization, as a place of work, we sit down and discuss each other's opinions, and we decide on one opinion, and then we all support that decision. We all go after that decision. I would love it. And I've seen it in many masajid, when the masjid makes a decision, even though there was an internal discussion, there was an internal debate, and the people inside the board were against each other in opinions, but the public knows one decision, all the board members should defend that decision even though they voted against it in the first place. Not to undermine what the whole organization is doing. And that is the principle of shura that Islam taught us. And there's a whole chapter in the Quran that called Ash-Shura to tell us about the importance of this principle. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَأَمْرُهُمْ شُورَى بَيْنَهُمْ. The matter of the believers is always shura. It's always consultation and decision and discussion, decision making and discussion. The second lesson, the importance of following the instructions of the leadership. Even though Islam promotes shura and consultations and democracy, but it also at the same time it balances it with the importance of leadership and the importance of following the instructions of the leaders. That is very important. That's something that no society, no community, no organization can go forward without having that. You open your own business and you tell your employees to do so, and they listen to you. That's why you have a successful business. But if every employee comes to you and tells you, no, I'm not going to listen to you, I'm going to do whatever I think is good, then either you fire them or your business will go down. Leadership is very important. It has to be balanced with the topic of shura, with the principle of shura. Prophet Muhammad ﷺ said, even if two people are out in the desert, they should appoint a leader among them. And one of the disastrous situations that we have for the Muslim Ummah and the Muslim community in America as well, that we do not have leadership and we don't respect leaders. All of us are leaders. All of us think that they are the best people to be qualified to be leaders. And now America is going through that route. When the Democratic president was there, the Republicans were undermining him because he's a bad leader in their opinion. And now exactly the opposite. What you see on the conservative right-wing news media is exactly what you used to see on the liberal left side media outlets. It's just the other flip side of the coin. And that is a destructive way of leadership. In the story of Uhud, Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, when he went out to the battlefield, and all of you, if you go into for Umrah or Hajj, you will see the huge mountain of Uhud, a huge mountain, huge. And then there is the field of the battle. And then in the middle there is a small hill. Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam chose 50 men, 5% only of the army. And he said, your job to stay on that hill and protect our backs. These were the archers. And he said, clearly, do not leave your spot until I come personally tell you to come down. Do not leave your spot, even if you see us are dead and the birds are eating our flesh. Do not leave your spot, even if we are winning and we're collecting the spoils of the war. Do not leave your spot, whatever happens. After the battle went on, and the first part of the battle was, the victory was to the Muslim side. The people on the hill start looking down and said, we're done, let's go down. Some of them said, no. Remember, Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, don't leave your spot, he said. Then after a while, the defeated army is running away, and they're leaving behind them their weapons and their swords and their arch, and then their bows and arrows, and everything is left behind, and their horses, and the nature of the wars in those days that people start collecting these things. So some of them said, we're missing out. We're not going to have anything if we just stay here. And they said, no. The Prophet said, clearly do not leave your spot. After back and forth, majority of the archers fell into the temptation and disobeyed the instructions and went down to the battlefield and left their spots. What happened? All of us know what happened. The knights came from behind and they flipped the amazing victory to a very sad, painful, disastrous defeat. That many great companions were killed in it. And the Prophet ﷺ himself, he was injured. His cheek was badly injured with the helmet. He was hit on his head. He even chipped some of his teeth. Very sad situation happened because of 5% did not obey the commandments, did not listen to the instructions. It is very important that we understand that when there is a leadership, we have to trust it. وَإِذَا عَزَمْتَ فَتَوَكَّلْ عَلَى اللَّهِ. Allah says to Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, when you are as a leader, make a decision, then tawakkal ala Allah, and everyone should follow. When you appoint and elect a leader in a masjid, or a leader in an organization, then khalas, you trust them, you give them the advice, you discuss with them, but when they make the decision, go. Or don't be part of that organization, don't be part of that community. Otherwise you're creating more damage and creating more chaos. A lot of us misunderstand the word democracy because many immigrants come from countries who are full of dictatorship and oppression, but then when they come here, they're like open. They misunderstood or misunderstand how democracy or how freedom of expression and opinions should be played and should be handled. That is something, these are two lessons that I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make us among those who understand them and apply them in their lives. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لي ولكم فاستغفروه. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على رسوله أفضل الأنبياء والمرسلين وعلى تابعيهم ومن تبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين. Someone might say, what are you talking about? We have a major crisis in Jerusalem, in Masjid al-Aqsa, and you're coming to talk about something happened 1400 years ago. You're talking about shura and leadership. Well, if we understand those principles, things will be much better in Jerusalem. Things will be much better in Masjid al-Aqsa. The fact that as a Muslim ummah, as a Muslim community, as a Muslim society, that we forgot about these two principles is what's causing us to get into these bad situations. I know last week, Sheikh Yasser tackled the situation from a different aspect. How it's important that we fix the problems between us as Muslims so these things don't happen again. But there's also another thing that we can do, is we understand the concepts of shura and leadership. To appoint a leader, and not all of us act as leaders when we have a leader. And the leader should not only be a person, could be a group of people, could be a board, could be an imam, could be whoever it is that we choose as a leader. Then we should trust that leadership. We should give an advice, but at the end, we should follow the leadership. As Muslims in Southern California, we chose an Islamic Shura Council, a council that gathers all the Muslims in Southern California and all the masajid as much as possible. That is our leader. That's our authority that we should look at when it comes to Islamic affairs. These are the ones who announce when is Ramadan and when is Eid. And for every year, when the Shura Council announces when is Ramadan, everyone becomes a scholar. Everyone becomes a leader. And everyone's like, oh, who are they to understand? Khalas ya akhi, we chose them as leaders. We chose them as our leaders. Let's at least follow the leadership instruction. Because without this leadership, without this concept of leadership, we're not going to get anywhere. You know, after what happened in Masjid al-Aqsa in the last week, it is sad. It is sad that the third holiest place for us as Muslims been shut down for a week. 2 Jum'ah prayers were not allowed there. You know, the disaster in Palestine is a human disaster, human rights disaster. When people are getting killed, homes are getting demolished, when people are being persecuted and imprisoned, that's a human side of the disaster that we all should care about. But when it comes to Masjid al-Aqsa, that's an Islamic matter. All of us should learn about Masjid al-Aqsa and understand the importance of Masjid al-Aqsa in our lives. Many of us are sat down at home, cried and posted something on Facebook and didn't do anything else. Others went to demonstrations and yelled and threw out slogans and lifted flags and all that. But unfortunately, they did not do anything to the people in Jerusalem and Masjid al-Aqsa. All what they did, they got their anger out. They felt good about themselves. What we need right now is we need to start planning. We need to start strategizing how we as a Muslim American community can make a difference, a positive difference in the country and in the world. How can we benefit the world around us? Each one of us should have written a letter to your congressman. You should write a letter to your congressman and to your senator telling them, I, as an American, ask you to be fair and not biased when you look at the situation in Jerusalem. Each one of us should start educating our friends and co-workers and friends about what is going on there. And there's so many beautiful resources that you can go. I advise you go to this website, ifamericanknew.org. An amazing website built by an American Jewish journalist. Her name is Alison Weir. Go to that website and read and educate. Buy their brochures and give them out to people. Number 3, be among those who are supporting these organizations. If it's only $5 a month, give it to AMP, American Muslims for Palestine. Give it to Jewish Voices for Peace. Give it to If American Knew. Any project that is supporting the rights of the people. Our brothers and sisters should be among those who support it. Number 4, pray for these people. How many of us said, you know what, tonight I'm going to do Qiyamul Layl just so I can pray for the oppressed. Just so you can pray for Masjid al-Aqsa. We should be more proactive and strategize. Not only getting our anger out and yelling and shouting. Yeah, that's good. It does benefit. But the bigger benefit is to plan for the future. The first demonstration I attended for Palestine was 17 years ago. The same. Nothing changed. Except the name of the president that they were talking about. It was Sharon then, now it's Netanyahu. But there's a positive difference that I've seen in the last demonstration that I attended last week. That the little that the people who used to hold the mics 17 years ago had very heavy accents. They were the older generation. Now, it was his daughter and his son who was standing on his shoulder on that day. So there is hope, and there's a lot of things that will happen. And we count on the younger generation to be proactive in the society, in the politics, so we can make a big difference in the world. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to be with our brothers and sisters around the world. Ya Allah, we ask you to be with our brothers and sisters around the world. Ya Allah, be with those who are oppressed. Ya Allah, be with those who are being killed. Ya Allah, be with those who are being persecuted. Ya Allah, we ask you to grant the freedom of living, the freedom of thinking, freedom of worship to all the Muslims around the world and to all the humans around the world. Ya Allah, we ask you to bless us and give us the ability to pray in the Masjid al-Aqsa before we die. Ya Allah, we ask you to protect the Masjid al-Aqsa and to protect the people of Jerusalem. Ya Allah. Allahumma اغفر المسلمين والمسلمات والمؤمنين والمؤمنات الأحياء منهم والأموات إنك يا ربنا سميع قريب مجيب الدعوات. عباد الله، إن الله قد أمركم بأمر بدأ به بنفسه وثنى بملائكة قدسه حيث قال إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما. اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما صليت وسلمت وباركت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم في العالمين إنك حميد مجيد. وأقم الصلاة.